see you on this Wednesday morning. My name is Samantha Nino of Red Zest Design, and I'll be one of the facilitators today. But before we get started with Entrepreneur Meetup, Tiffany has a few announcements.
Yes, I have a couple. If you're a member of Launchpad, today we are having chili and soup for lunch at 9:30, I think it is. And so come and join us downstairs for that. On the 12th of October, I mentioned this before, our Lunch with Professionals, the list of the consultants that will be here are on here, and you can sign up if you want. So I will send that around. If you're not on our email list, getting our newsletter, put your name on here and we'll get you added. And then we do have our kickoff coming up for the idea competition. So I just have a sign-up list just so we can get somewhat of a head count would be great. But again, anyone that has any interest in learning a little bit more about it, even if you're maybe not thinking you're ready for it or have an idea right now, it's going to be a fun event to kick off this next year, 2018, which is our 10-year anniversary. So we're excited about that. So I hope you can come. So there is a sign up for that as well. So I will send 3 different sign-ups around.
Does anyone not, have you all heard of the idea competition? Do you know what it is? You can get money for your business?
New folks in here. Okay, so it is a competition that's region-wide, 12-county region, coming from this end of the region all the way over to the northwest part of the state. And it is a competition that started pretty much as a kind of an invention competition, but has evolved into much more than that. So it's something you could enter as long as you have some type of business product that is innovative, different from what's out there in the marketplace right now. And you can enter, you will get lots of technical assistance, labs, there's a variety of labs where you're put together with others in the competition to learn the business planning process, marketing, patent area, trademark area as well, financial projections. You're teamed up with a consultant as well through the process. And there's 2 different judging rounds, and in the end, up to 3 winners are chosen with $10,000 prizes each. And 1 gets selected for the Minnesota Cup, which is the statewide idea competition. And Michael was one of our winners last year, so he could certainly talk about his experience too.
It's a great way.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah.
Phil or Ryan?
One thing that's kind of changing this year, so over the last few years, we've made it clear that people that have been in business, like the Michael Stitchworth, can also apply. It wasn't just new sketches of conventions coming in, which was a good thing, and it's increased the amount of applicants, and we have a sizable amount of bigger business actually entering the competition as well. So to make sure that we're also still making it clear and paying attention to the newbies, through the judging we will be we don't have the whole process down yet, but making sure that we pay attention to the emerging entrepreneur, whether it's all 3 of the awards are emerging entrepreneur awards, or 2 of the 3, or 1 of the 3. But we're going to make sure that we pay attention to that as well, just because it's really hard to judge somebody that comes in with a concept against somebody who's proven apples to apples. So we're kind of splitting the judging to make sure that those people are represented as well.
One thing I've got is please come on the 10th. Bring a friend, bring a colleague if somebody's we've got an idea kicking around. Please come on the 10th. Bring them here. Introduce them to the competition and have some snacks and drink and learn a little bit more about it.
Awesome.
Why
Thanks, guys.
don't you share what you win here and go to the state? Tell what happens if you win the state.
Well, we haven't had somebody win that yet.
No,
We've had
but
2
for those
finalists.
that do.
So what we give a person the opportunity to do is go directly into the semifinal round. So they get to pass a round of hundreds of applications, if not more. The state competition it's been a challenge for us up here because there's so many things. There's weekly opportunities to go to different events, but I don't know what the total cash is, but it's cash and in-kind is somewhere close to $50,000 to $100,000 that somebody could potentially win at that level. But the resources alone and the connections you make. Weaver was a finalist, and then you had another finalist, and then And this last year, we actually had 2 from our competition enter, one that we sent and one that entered on their own. And Squirrel, the one that entered on their own, is a finalist. We've had some good representation from our region.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing about the idea competition. It's the epitome of entrepreneurship and business owner or business opportunity for our region. So get involved, find out more. It's not, like Phil said, it's not just inventors that do this anymore. So find out more. Any other entrepreneur meetup or entrepreneur announcements that you'd like to share? Well, our presenter today is Kathryn Smith, the CEO of EduWorks. Kathryn has been providing leadership in teacher education for over 25 years. She has written and directed a $1.5 million federal education grant and was selected as one of 12 teacher educators to be the Apple Distinguished Educator, as well as providing a variety of workshops and conference presentations. She will be discussing her entrepreneur evolution, Your Story, which takes your memories in paper or digital format and works with you to organize them into a meaningful story that you want to be told. Kathryn, please welcome Kathryn Smith.
Thank you, Kevin, where'd you go, Kevin? Oh, there you are, for that nice write-up. Was that a summary of a 45-minute conversation? I think so. Okay. So with that kind of an intro, you'll know that my best friend today is going to be this. I'm in love with this, so Sam, keep your eye on it. May not make it back to your house. My name is Kathryn Smith, and I'm very privileged to be here to talk to all of you. Launchpad has been a very meaningful component of the mosaic that I've been putting together that's brought me to this place today. But before I get into my presentation, I have a guest today, and this is Sylvia Honest. Olney. Now, Sylvia and I have known each other for a number of years, but we know each other as Sylvia and Kathryn, right? In our Espanol clase de Universidad de Bemidji State. Yes. And so yesterday I learned that she, in her core profession, she is a psychoanalyst, psychotherapist, yeah. And has her own private business, as well as been adjunct over at VSU, and that provided instruction there. But yesterday I learned she also is starting a new business. And so I told her what I was doing this morning, and she said, "Is it okay for me to come?" And I said, "Oh yes, we want please come." And so I'm going to have her just to tell you the name of her business, sort of what the target of it is, very quickly, and then later you all can buzz around her and find out more about it. Okay? Okay.
Thank you. I'm now a consultant with Rodan and Fields, which is skincare that actually really works. And I know better than to do a giant pitch right now, but the moment I have an opportunity to tell you about it, I would love to do that. So.
Very good. Thank you so much, Sylvia. We're glad to have you here. Okay. Now, today my presentation is going to be in 3 parts. I'm going to start out by trying to establish in your minds why would the service that I am planning and am offering would be important to you and people that you know, and even people that you don't know yet, because we want to spread the word far and wide. The second part of my presentation, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the kinds of actually what the services kind of look like, and the kind of things that I would do with clients. So if you were to talk to someone and say, "Oh gee, you should really look at your visual storytelling, this is an option that we really think is going to meet one of your particular needs." And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the business challenges and some of the pieces about where I think this might go. And of course, that's where you all are going to fit in even more. And in the middle of the presentation, well, of course, we have to have a little active participation. So at that point, Sam and Tiffany are going to help me out with a handout. I can't come to a presentation without a handout. That's just part of the process, okay? How many people have a pile of things like that at home? Okay, well, I'll tell you what, you know, we started out with this, and of course, when Kodak brought out the first camera, you ready for this, in 1885. And they had a little box, and if you got the box filled up, you sent it in. Well, no idea is new, right? Many of you probably remember these, and of course, I still have some. In fact, I have a whole bag of them, and let's see here. Well, this one sort of, it just says, it has my name on it and Bemidji, Minnesota. So I guess if I lose it, somebody might be able to get it back to me, but I have no idea what's on it. Okay, so that's one of the problems that we have. And of course, now we have our smartphones. I did some research yesterday, and you know how many photos will be taken around the world this year, in 2017? What do you think? Millions?
Trillions.
It's trillions. 1.2 trillion photos. Okay? But we have to stop and think, these photos are of all different kinds of things. I take pictures of sometimes where I'm parking, if I'm at an odd place. If I want to remember this wonderful clock, I'll just take a picture of it, so when I'm out shopping around, I know that that's there. You know, I take, if somebody has a nice slide that I really like, you guys had some good ones, I took pictures of them, so I can get back to it later. And of course, we have all of this techno clutter in there, but inside of there, inside of all this mess, we have pictures that are photos that are very precious to us. We have things like on our CDs, this is another one of my favorites, you know, this one is labeled. This one, again, has nothing on it, you know, so I'm really going to dig right into that one. And then there's some other things that we have that we probably need to take care of, or at least I think so. This is a very important document. It's from anybody know where Philo is? Philo, Illinois, you don't know that? That's my hometown.
I do.
You do?
Lyle, Illinois.
Yeah, it's in Illinois.
Yes,
And
it's right next to Naperville.
No, it's south. Philo is...
Oh, I thought you said Lyle.
No, I know where Lyle is. No, that's Chicago. You know, Chicago, and then we have the rest of Illinois. No, but if you're from Chicago, you never say you're from Illinois. Side story, I do this all the time. My son is a night manager over at the Holiday Inn Express. He came home one morning and he says, you know what, Mom, you're right. I had a guy that checked in, he said he was from Chicago. He never did say he was from Illinois. I told you. Okay, so anyway, I'm sure everybody's interested in more Illinois stories. We'll get back to that later. Okay, but anyway, this is a certificate from the Centennial, and the Centennial was in 1975. Now, I have kept this all this time. It's starting to look a little bit bad, but I can you know, archive this in a digital image and use it in a number of different ways. So this image, of course, just talks about the overload we have in devices and chips and all kinds of formats. And this is a problem for people who would come to me, but also a problem for me as the business owner. Because one of the challenges that I'll remind us of in a little bit is the fact that, you know, you can have some very major compatibility issues with people, particularly if you're looking at their old chips and CDs and such as that. Okay. Now, this is a wonderful image that I actually found, and it says, if you don't think photos are important, wait until they're all you have left. Let's just kind of take a moment and think about that. Think about those precious photos of things that they just aren't there anymore. I know. I can take my children to where I grew up out at the farm, and when we drive past that cornfield, I see the house and the barn and the tool shed, but they don't. Okay? What are the people, places, and things that you want to see again? What are the stories and vacations that you tell and then you kind of forget and they go on their merry way? Well, if you take a look at the rack card in front of you, these, This actually, my sign and my rack card, my business cards, I've been working with Design Angler here, in fact, helped me with my last little project, to put together a professional image of the work that I'm doing. Now, I do multimedia, but like any business, there's different levels of how you want to present yourself. You know, I mean, I don't want my business to show up in, garden clothes, when I'm out cleaning out the weeds. So this was put together by Design Angler, and I'm going to borrow one of yours. Okay. And what I tried to do with this in terms of portraying my image is to people is to kind of give that older kind of a look, reflective, a little bit of the story, some hints up here, and then on the back side, it's where I try to educate people on what ideas and things that they might want to look at. And the goal here is to really kind of help people to change the way they think about photos and images. Rather than just stacks of stuff, like in the first photo, we began looking at them and pulling out those nuggets that we're going to be able to craft together into a more meaningful story that you would like to remember and you would like for others perhaps to know about. The images up here kind of correlate with the list that you see on the back of the rack card. I pointed that out. And you take a look at these and you say, well, you're offering a service that's pretty, everybody does that, right? You've seen presentations for birthdays, you've seen, at weddings and retirements and all that sort of thing. But as we go through the presentation, I'm going to, hopefully you'll see that what we do at Your Story has some value-added pieces that step beyond just your ordinary pile of pictures going around in a repeating format. The special belongings is one that we're going to look closely at. That's a concept that is probably the dearest one to my heart, and I'll expand on that for you. Class reunions, we know about that. Children's art, we'll get back to that one. This, of course, is a memory I'll never see again. She's left us my precious Greta. The 1930s homestead of my grandparents, and my Stephen discovering that Illinois is hot. We arrived in north part of Illinois, coming down from Minnesota. A child was born here in Bemidji, had no idea about the rest of the world. So I took him out, and we're up there, and he comes running to me and he goes, "Mom, I'm raining." He was perspiring, he had, little droplets on him. He had no way to describe that type of perspiration. I mean, northern Minnesota, he'd never experienced anything like that. Now notice how that brings, this is a cute picture, and you probably would have enjoyed it. But just look at the little story that went in behind that kind of brought out that kind of an image there. So when you start thinking about your own pile of things, also start thinking of those events, those moments, those little stories like that we all tell about our children and our friends and our college days or, first jobs and so on. Okay, so we're developing the why would we want to do it. Is everybody excited to do this? I see no hands. This exercise time, yes, we're all ready. Okay, very good. We got it. All right, now if I'm going to work with a client, what do I need to do with them? Now, number one, just like with you all, I need to help them to start with their why. What is the purpose of their story? Who are they going to reach? They need to think about what's that story going to tell. A lot of people come in and say, well, I want to do kind of a history of my family. Okay, fine. Well, what about that? So in a way, it is a customized counseling, kind of a moment that I have with people. What's the story going to be for? Is this just for you? Or is this something that I want to put up on a webpage? I've done things for small business where they want a little vignette that tells about, a special event that's happening at their store. Well, that's a whole different ballgame than if I'm doing something with children's artwork. Okay? Then the other part that's can be really challenging. Now this group here, of course, are very skilled, and that is helping people to collect their images. Now it's easy for people to come up with things like this and classical photos and bring in CDs and maybe even memory chips. The thing about those is we can't always, use them, but they're easy for them to find. But when you start mucking around with, like on my cell phone here, I looked it up, I have over 7,700 pictures just on here. And that doesn't count all the ones that have been backed up into the cloud in my Dropbox and other places that I probably can't even remember, not counting the ones that are in the phones that crash that I don't have anymore. You just have to get over those losses. It's hard, okay? So I need to help them in some kind of a meaningful way. How are we going to get them to put those pieces together? And then to begin looking at what's the final product going to be like. Are we going to have something online? Do you want me to just put this in some kind of a storage, like a CD or a hard drive or a thumb drive? You want to put it up on YouTube? You want a combination of digital as well as print items? Some people like to put together images and create that wonderful massage, that sounds good. Mosaic of images for gifts at Christmas, for example. So those are all things that we talk about. Now, what I have to help folks, and this is where I have Tiffany and Sam are going to just very quickly pass out some handouts to you. And this is just an example. Now I want you to know Design Angler did not do this. This actually is a more basic product that came from my computer and my printer. So, but anyway, these are the kinds of things that you could use with your clients to help them answer the questions that I just talked about. Kind of give you an idea there. It's a real challenging format. It's working with tables. You make some boxes and you put them on there. But this really does help. It helps to capsulize and begin to have a working point, and also something that we can have to work together. Also, this was created in Google Docs, so I can have that up on my computer. And I can also email it or share it with someone anywhere around the world. And we could actually be looking at this document at the same time. So one of the things I'm trying to do as I build this business is, in terms of clientele, the world is my client. So anyway, that's how this works. And it follows the outline, just what we just talked about. What's your purpose, a big spot for just, jotting down and brainstorming, the pieces that might fall anything, nothing in particular order. Then the next one, or what are some of those kind of stories or labels do you want? Do you want to put dates on there? Do you want to put like, vacation to the Bahamas or wherever it was? Looking down here, what are you looking for to be your final product? I need to know if you want to have final classical images, or if you just want to have not just want to have, but if you're looking for more digital kinds of things, and maybe something uploaded onto the internet. Now the second page you have actually illustrates where you get down into more detailed planning, and again, it's a simple concept. But here's where you would have people to begin thinking about particular images, start honing in on the kinds of things that they might want to say, and then start beginning to put things in order. And one of the very first things that I did 3 years ago, in the spring of 2014, and Sam, I'm sure, does not remember this, I went to a presentation that Red Zest gave at the Northwest Foundation, and she did the most clever thing with boxes. You may have seen her do this before. And she was very clever because she reminded us that we could use sticky notes, remember? Okay, I never forgot that one. It was a great idea. But I want to give credit where credit's due. But notice how you could also use sticky notes on just plain things and, put them around. You've all done things like that. And even using these little tiny strips for labels, that you'd want to play with. So all kinds of little tools like that. So that gives you an idea of the kinds of things that or processes, materials and processes that I would use with people to help them come closer to giving me a good idea as to what it is they're trying to achieve. Because without my good understanding of that, then I can't provide them the service that they're looking for. Okay? Now, if I were working with clients and I had some that really didn't understand the process, I would probably go through this series of slides. This is an example of an actual study trip that I took to Puerto Rico. And I thought that was really very poignant at this particular time. I'm going to put in a call for them. My instructor, Yvette, I've been in communication with her throughout the time, since 2 years ago when I was there for a month studying Espanol, and they're in very dire straits. One of their problems is there's a 1920 law about how materials can come into the ports of Puerto Rico, and they have to go through U.S. harbors, and they say that Puerto Rico is not actually a U.S. harbor, and so there are many things that we know are slowing down the aid to our U.S. citizens and our brothers and sisters there. So, anyway, when I put this together, they were not in that kind of a situation, but so that's my political announcement for the day. But anyway, Puerto Rico and the reasons why and so on, and what you would want to do. And of course, if you were working with a group, it would be much more extensive than that. One of the first things you'd want to do would be, of course, create an album. And that is where you ask people, you gather together all kinds of images from them. And they don't have to be in any particular order. You may not use all of them. Most of you have seen this kind of process. And the reality is the gray images, if, we see some, good. There we go. Are images from that particular trip, and this one is probably one of my absolute favorites, and again, telling a little bit of a story. I'm standing in Old San Juan, and I have a friend that I've done a lot of consulting with, and her father owns an art gallery in Old San Juan. And he had actually done a painting of which I purchased from him that is of this setting. So one of the lovely things that I have as a memory is I have his picture of us together, his painting, and then this image of myself. And it's also very special because he passed away a week after I visited him in Puerto Rico. So, the stories. Alrighty. So, we will just, this is a typical kind of thing that and I just give people like snippets of things that they might do. Now, how is what I'm doing different? Okay? Here are some new ideas that I have for helping people think about working with images. One of them is, we're going to start with this one over here, and I titled that Picasso Lived in My House. So those of you that have children, or if you were a child, anybody here not a child at one point? Okay, very good, all right. My guess is somewhere, I know I still have, a 10 foot locker that has a little oilcloth pad that I made in brownies. You can see I do have some other problems. But, so you have these things. I mean, I am really distressed right now about a turkey. One of the titles I had was Save the Turkey, but I liked Picasso Lived in My House. So it was a little broader concept than Save the Turkey. But my daughter, when she was little, and many of you have gotten these from nieces and nephews or whatever, or seen them, a little turkey that looks like this with a little head, and they use their hands, and it's so precious because that's the size of their hand at that time, and that, it's precious when it comes to you, but trust me, now it's even more precious. Well, I'll tell you what, we got a tail feather that's just about ready to come off, So I'm going to try to take some of those images, and I have a box of these things. And, there's no room on my refrigerator for them, tails are coming off, this sort of thing. But I can put that all together in a wonderful story, digital presentation, or even make some collages of that. And I can have that with me, okay? Now, if you take a look at this particular image, who do you think that's a picture of?
You. 3 people.
Right here? This is from here. You're right, it's a picture of me. Now, note, I told one of the ladies earlier, I said, because she commented on what I had on, I said, I wore this for a purpose. And I was substituting last spring, and it was wonderful. There was it was kindergarten. A little boy goes, "I drew a picture of you." I said, "You did?" So I go over and I look, and I go, "Oh my gosh, that is so wonderful." And I said, "Do you mind if I take a picture of that?" Well, of course, you know what we do. We run and go get our handy dandy mobile phone. And by the time I came back, just like that, he says, "I added something to the picture." I said, "You did?" He said, "You've got a balloon and a lollipop." And notice boots. And of course, you recognize this right now. There's a scarf. You have to use your imagination for the rest of it. Okay? But that's what we did. Now, stories. Okay? Now, you can take it with you. This is the one that's closest to my heart. And I'm not passing out Kleenex, but I probably should. Okay? All of us get to a point where we can't take all of our stuff with us. Our little bag gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And we end up finding ourselves, even at our children's house, maybe in a little room somewhere, or perhaps in a support care facility, or things of that nature. Oftentimes, you wish you could see various things or have things with you. And so why not work with these folks and put together pictures and images of things that are important? For example, for me, in my story that I might want to take with me, it might be that image. And if I had people to come to visit me, I might have this program going, and we could talk about that story. This is a picture of my grandmother and grandfather. These are the folks that did the farm in the 1937s, of which I still have a little piece of it. And they were married in about 1914. Okay, very, very young, my grandma was. And this chair, this mission chair there, was one of her wedding presents from a great aunt, Aunt Edith. And I know where Aunt Edith lived, and I've been there. Okay. This, of course, is a picture of that time that my Stephen learned what it was like to rain in Illinois. But these are the kinds of, it's not just photos, but it can be images of things, pictures of places you lived, or whatever it might be, even a certificate that you might have. And so my thought is, and I've talked to some people that are living in some support environments, about working with families to put together these kinds of stories and then put the narratives and so forth with them to capture these kind of moments, because we all know sometimes it's very uncomfortable if we go and visit folks that maybe can't visit with you like they should, and you may have all experienced that where you go and visit and the person is there but they can't communicate, so everybody's talking about going to McDonald's or Burger King. I mean, we need to respect the person we've come to visit and why we're there and celebrate that. So don't wait until they're gone. That's my recommendation. But that's my little thing. You can take it with you. All right. Now, what are some of the value-added services that Your Story offers my clients? Well, first of all, it's the organization of images to create some kind of a cohesive story. Making archival records of materials, photos, and so on. And Sam gave me the idea last week, or a couple weeks ago, about being an archivist. Thank you, Sam. I couldn't have done this without you. Well, any of you, Okay, be able to put together presentations that can either be on, and I can support them actually being someplace and helping them do the presentation on site. I've done that before, or doing something virtual for them. Now, a lot of you folks and a lot of people I work with have these kind of skills, but they don't necessarily have time to do it, or do they want to? I kind of like to do it, so that's a good thing. Transforming a classic images and documents into a digital format for flexibility, and then the creation of products other than presentations. I worked with one lady who wanted to. She had the parents were having a 50-year anniversary, and the family wanted her to take that they found out she had a camera. I think that was how she happened to get this job, and she was pretty stressed about it. And what they asked her to do was to take the old wedding picture, you know, and put it on the front of a card. And we've seen this done often. And so she was panicked about this, thinking she had to scan it, and she had to take it this place and that place. And I said, why don't we just take a digital image of it and come out to your house, we can do it, it'll be fine. Perfect. It was about a 15-minute process. The family thought she was a genius. It worked out great. Okay. Now, now we're getting into some of the areas where I have some challenges, and I'm just gonna pass some of these around. This was a project that we worked on, right? This one? This one? Yeah. Okay, so I was going to do the Boomers and Beyond, and I thought, well, I've got rack cards, I've got business cards and so on, but I need to let people know that I actually might be somewhere so they could get a hold of me, for one thing. And then I need to begin to conceptualize how, if I did a process for somebody, how can I translate this into value in terms of dollar and cents, and try to put it in a way that somebody might be willing to see that as a price point that would fit a need, that they might be willing to try something like that. The other thing is I did put the image on there, the Mayflower building, because that's the way we are in the Midwest. I put the address on here, but you know, somebody told me to go pay for my gas when I first came here to Bemidji, and it was by the old Red Owl, which had not existed for 20 years before I arrived. So we need pictures, don't we? All right. So this is an example of where I took the rack card. You'll notice I just took part of the rack card that had basic information on the one side, and then we just made a little flyer on the back. And this is the kind of thing that I could change and have different times on it. And again, it looks very upscale, as opposed to, you can see the difference, right? Design angler, me. Design angler. It's a no-brainer, as they say. Okay, so now, really, more than that, I'm hopefully taking your story to the road, on the road to profitability, but you'll notice that it's not, it looks like it's a straight line, but of course, you know, it isn't. Your story actually evolved after a couple of years of doing tech interpreters. Many of you have been around and you've seen this particular rack card. And initially I'm still doing this, working with people individually who don't know how to work with technology at all. Everybody's always thrilled with it. I had an 80-year-old guy that came to one of my workshops, and his comment was, you know, when I came, I wondered, you know, if it was really worth it. Now I can hardly wait. You know, it's those kind of things that just keep you chugging, I'm telling you. But what I've learned is that people love this, but to try to get people who don't know about technology, because there's a psychological problem here. They feel so bad about themselves that they won't come forward and try, and the idea of actually paying money for education is a difficult one to sell. Okay, you've got to have a tangible product. Also, having a product and service like this didn't necessarily fit in. I've been a member of BNI for a long time. I've become a launchpad for a long time. And probably the biggest question most everybody had was, what in the world is she doing here? You know? Okay, so I've been evolving. That's what I've been doing. Okay, so here we are. So, on the road to profitability. Here's some of the challenges that I see, and then I'm going to open it up for your questions. The ability to find and transfer photo files with clients, liability issues with photos, and also the care of things that are sent to me, potential format incompatibilities I mentioned, creating the want for your story services. That's a big one for me. I mean, I talk to everybody, especially about the you can take it with you concept, and everybody's going, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'm thinking of all the people I've had to turn down that have wanted that service so far. There's plenty of room, okay? Great ideas, but I gotta create the want, and I also have to put my things in a format so people, you know, are going to, again, want to come forward and purchase the service. So your thoughts and suggestions.
Can you,
Know that you said your base presentation was about 10 slides
Mm-hmm,
and about $150.
mm-hmm.
And then that's all stuff that you've had to kind of sort through and scan and put together, right?
Well, it covers what I was just showing you, where I sit down and consult with people.
Yep.
People have to send things into you, you have to do see, that's the part that, when somebody says, okay, 10 slides, $15 a slide, that's really expensive.
Well, what I was going to ask you is, how much time do you have up until that point until they get the 10 slides back?
Oh, I'd say, could be anywhere, it depends on, see, that's a problem that I have, because it depends on how they come to me. It could be an hour, it could be 2.
In total, putting slides together and everything?
No, just getting the material, sitting down with the people, getting the idea. When I go to put actually the easy part is putting together the story, if you've done the preliminary work well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, many of you have put together slideshows, and so a good piece of software, and you put them in there, and you put your labels, and you add, if you're gonna put music and voice behind it, then that would be like an extra service that I would have to charge a little more for.
So you got an hour or two just talking to them probably, right?
Right, yeah.
And then you have how many hours, scanning documents or sorting through and arranging pictures?
Well, this is where I have to work on me.
Yeah.
If anybody's ever worked on projects like this or fooled around even with art things, there's always another little tweak thing that you can do. I spent a half an hour the other day just trying to get a little corner off of a border until I finally said to myself, stop it.
Yeah.
So, this is a discipline that I need to, develop, because if I want to make this a business, I can't do it in endless format.
You kind of have to track it too.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So there's, web developers, when they work on your stuff, they have a little clock rolling in the top corner of their computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
And you may be working for $2 an hour,
Exactly. And, that's, in the work that I've done before, just because, I get, focused in, involved in stuff, I've allowed myself endless time to do it. And I've really taken away from my own self. And so there is a discipline that I have to continue to develop that's going to address that.
Well, another thing too is you have all these nice flyers, and you have to pay for that, and you have a membership here, a membership at BNI. You have to pay for all that. So you kind of have to figure out how much money do I need to make per hour to pay for that, and pay for how much time I'm spending on it, taken away from time that I need to spend doing
One of the things I'm really excited about is initially when I went to, because I think I've talked to all the small business people who kindly just quit calling me, because initially when I was working on things like this as I'm evolving, it was really difficult to identify a cost point per product. And so that's one of the things that when I was thinking about creating the Your Story, it still has the pieces that are important to me, helping others and working with technology. Okay, but there is a final product there, and it is quantifiable. Whereas doing individual consulting with people on whatever it is they come in with, or the seminars, you can quantify that. But it was very difficult to put together a business plan really with this particular, by the way, fabulous idea.
Right, what I was kind of getting at is, once you figure out what your time has to be worth, basically before you, so you can make it worth your time, basically.
Right.
Then you start the timer when you start working on somebody's project, and then, your cost may be, considerably higher. I think what happens is, you personally feel guilty about the price.
Oh, always.
And you almost have to, target the customers across the nation that their time is worth more than that.
Exactly.
So they'll pay you to do it.
Right, and so that's exactly right, Mike, and that's why I say my market is, beyond, it is worldwide. And one of the ways that I think that will really help me move into that arena is to look into doing some speaking at, let's say, for example, AARP, the national conference, things like that. I mean, I've done things like that in my other professions, and that's where you need to get into a larger arena. I actually see this idea as, I'm envisioning these kind of materials. One of the things that I've been thinking about is coming together probably, I could do like a companion book of some of the stories, and images, which would be maybe really something people are interested in, but also some kind of a handbook workbook.